war. Responsible for millions of deaths over the millennium. The more advanced warfare became, the higher the death toll from these military conflicts grew, leading to the largest and bloodiest the world had ever seen, World War I. Spanning 4.5 years, the first global war was one that revolutionized wartime techniques and technologies, from tanks to chemical warfare. The first war that engulfed the world was a bloody and brutal one. But this introduction of new firearms and techniques was one that required a slower, more grueling, and defensive kind of combat: trench warfare.
Trench warfare was commonly used during World War I as the conflict norm between two sides, with trenches significantly slowing down the frequency of conflicts but speeding up the rate of fatalities. This led to hundreds upon thousands of soldiers dying for only a few yards of advantage. Now you may be wondering, at what point in this war was this form of combat adopted?
The date was September 6, 1914, only a month and a half after the start of World War I, and the Allied forces in France had been engaged in a conflict with German forces. The Allied forces retreated to the Marne, though, with the German front quickly catching up with them. It is claimed that both sides expected the battle to last a short amount of time, a day or two maybe, but nobody expected the 6 days of hell it actually turned into. With over 500,000 casualties by the end of it all, both sides made little new ground during the conflict. But the one thing both sides gained halfway through was a new step towards the upper hand. Since desperate times called for desperate measures, this battle resulted in the creation of the first trenches.
Neither side would budge, refusing to lose so many troops just to retreat. So they made their own cover, with each side having soldiers at the rear of the battle dig rough trench cover. These trenches stretched for miles on both sides of the battlefield, with the soldiers at the front on both sides retreating to the new trenches, resulting in the first no man's land between both sides' trenches.
As the battle progressed, the large field where the combat took place was decimated, with scorched earth and debris littering the body-covered ground. This was clearly no place to fight, with cover for the soldiers being almost non-existent. No Man's Land. Considered the most dangerous place on Earth, No Man's Land was the place most soldiers called a death sentence. A place so dangerous, the majority of deaths from the war occurred in No Man's Land, with snipers and machine gunners posted all over the trenches. Even sticking out a pinky above the trench would result in only 9 fingers.
The trenches were always designed for a combination of cover, living quarters, base command, and military barracks. Artillery was stationed across almost the entire stretch of the trenches. In fact, almost every soldier was armed and ready to die in no man's land. However, some soldiers had to remain unarmed due to a lack of weapons in the war. This caused the unarmed soldiers to make a pact with the armed soldiers. This pact was, once the armed soldier died in battle, the unarmed soldier would pick up their rifle and continue fighting on. This made them more aware of their impending doom in the battle. This illustrates how slim their chances of survival were seen in the war.
By the end of World War I in 1918, the trenches stretched for 35,000 unconnected miles across Europe, with dug-up earth acting as graves for the soldiers who fought over no man's land. The decimated area still remain to this day, like a scar on the face of the earth. A grim and gruesome reminder of what life and death can be like in the trenches.